It's very special to me, almost like a great reunion. I'm seeing people that I haven't seen in so many years, many of whom I played with. Even in my later years, I kept playing basketball for quite a few years after even my prime. But this is just a great honor. What I said earlier is, who can say who the best player is? So many of these guys are accomplished in their own right, and so I'm proud to be here, believe me.
The high school days here in the Capital Region, take us back and take us to some of those games where you're shooting lights out.
Well, I played on an undefeated team in my senior year, and we had one loss as a junior. I played for the greatest coach I ever had. I played on every level, the high school, college, and the NBA. A fellow named Walt Prislow was a guy who taught me everything that I know. He coached Pat Riley as well. He was a great coach. And I actually attribute any success I've ever had to him in any endeavor. So my high school days were great with Prislow, and it was just a learning stage for me to get to college and eventually play for NYU. But at every level, you have to make a transition. It's more difficult. And it took me a year or two to get my legs at NYU, and then finally, as a junior, I came into my own, and I scored about 30 points a game, was the second leading scorer in the nation. But it didn't happen overnight, and it really was because of my great training in high school.
Now talk about leaving NYU and going to the Warriors and what that was like for you.
Well, I was the 8th pick in the first round. I was surprised. I thought the Knicks were going to take me. Actually, the first pick in the second round, it didn't happen. Ironically, they took Willis Reed, and so probably lucky for them, they got Willis Reed instead of me. But the Warriors were not a good fit for me. Wilt was out there, but Wilt got sick. He got some pancreatic problem. He had to go east. The Warriors panicked. I never played out there. Finally, midway through the year, I got traded to New York, and I ended up having a pretty good second half of the year playing for the Knicks.
We're thinking about the Basketball Hall of Fame here in the Capitol. How special is this thing?
I think this is a great thing. The Capital District has been a hotbed for basketball for over 50 years. It's amazing. People might say to me, what is it? Is it something in the water? I don't really know. I can only tell you that if you go, all these guys that I played with who are in this Hall of Fame, that I played with, are in the Halls of Fame of their respective colleges. They were great college players, Rio, Geiger, Curvin. It goes on. And then, even of late, if you watch the great players like Willie Dean and James Thomas and Jason McCreath, I went and watched these kids playing at my high school. I was impressed. I don't know if we could have beaten them. But this has been a hotbed of basketball. Albany, Schenectady, Troy, and also Amsterdam. Tim Kaloje back in Pat Riley's day, and even now.
Besides the Notre Dame game where you scored a lot and you snatched a lot of rebounds, take us back to a vivid memory of a tremendous performance.
Probably the greatest game I ever played. Well, when I was a junior, I opened up against Georgetown in the Garden. I scored 42 and broke the school record. Then a few games later, we were in the Madison Square Garden Holiday Festival. I scored 42 against Illinois. The greatest thrill I ever had in my entire basketball career was getting the MVP of that Holiday Festival tournament. Someone called me down from the bleachers. I was sitting with my parents and said, come with me, come with me. He was a sports information director at NYU. I didn't know where he was taking me. Next thing you know, I was on the floor, and a guy named Don Dunphy was saying, and I heard the public address announcer, John Condon, say, and the MVP, he's from NYU, and the crowd went crazy. That was the biggest adrenaline rush of my entire life, because at that moment I knew I was making it. I was doing what I had always dreamed of. That moment, that was 1963.
I ask guys just about basically competing at the highest level and how it looks so easy sometimes. Did it really come to you that easy?
No, basketball is a war. Any sport, any hand-to-hand combat, leaning, pushing, shoving, holding. No, it doesn't come easy because everybody wants to stop you. And so it's one thing I will say to people who don't know much about basketball. Basketball is a game of strength and finesse. You have to be strong, and it is a battle. And when you go out there, you take nothing for granted.
Any final comments on today's episode of the Hall of Fame? A tremendous day here in the Capital Region.
Jim, the only thing I can say is that this is one of the highest honors I've ever received, and to be remembered at this stage of my life and to be able to come back and see all the guys who did it with me is a great thrill for me.